Okay, now so how to sew on the buttons. So we're just going to pretend that this scrap is our shirt, and you want to have the shirt overlapping. Remember that the women wrap right over left, men wrap left over right, so your buttonholes, if you're doing the women's style, it should be on the right, and if you're doing the men's style, the buttonhole should be on the left. Okay, so when I'm sewing on a button, I like to take a length of thread that's kind of easy to work with, so probably about 18 inches, but then I double it. For buttons, I actually quadruple it. So I just fold it in half and then fold in half again. So I've got a super long piece of thread. Cut the ends off even because we're going to put the two cut ends together. You've got two cut ends of thread there. We're going to put those through together through the eye of the needle, which is why we buy the embroidery needles with the nice big eyes. All right, we want to make sure that those four strands of thread, kind of run your finger down a couple of times to make sure they are smooth and one's not longer than the other. Okay, tying the knot, ready? Wrap it around your finger and then bring it off your nail. So you're looking at like a number 6 of thread. I don't want to just put that loop, that tail of thread through once. I want to roll it through back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then pull that whole big giant mess down so I get a nice big fat knot right at the end of my thread. Okay. So, as I was saying, you line up the top and bottom of your shirt. Really have to make sure that the bottom especially is lined up really well. On the kind of shirt we're making, that convertible collar, you've got a little more wiggle room at the top. It won't really show if it's off on the top, but it'll definitely show if it's off at the bottom. Okay, so the bottom is all lined up, top is lined up, and you want about a 3 centimeter overlap in between your two layers of shirt. Basically, you want that whole buttonhole to be over the shirt. I stick my needle in the buttonhole, slide it toward the end of the buttonhole that's closer to the edge of the shirt, right, closer to the edge, and then pull that front away, and that's where we want our button to be. So I'll make a little stitch right there. So now this knot is on the outside of my shirt. It's going to sit there on the outside, but the button's going to hide it. If you get a button with a frame like this, the frame is the outside of the button, faces out. So from the stitch that I made in the shirt, I'm going to go up into the button and then down into the button. And then I'm going to make a stitch in the exact same spot. Okay, always my stitches will be in that same spot, and always my needle will be coming in and out of the fabric. I never draw it out the back. Alrighty, once I have one stitch in there, I want to actually not pull that really tight because I want to use a pin to create a space there. Our shirt's not really thick, so we don't need a lot of space. We just need enough space under the button for the thickness of the other part of the shirt to come underneath. So we use the pin to create that space. One mistake people make is that they get their thread going over the button like that. See, I've drifted. Over the button like that. That's not going to work for you. So once I've gone through the fabric, I go up the button, down the button, through the fabric again in the same spot. So on the back of the placket of your shirt, it's just going to show one pick of thread because all of our stitches will be in the same spot every time. So you won't see your needle traveling all over. So because we have 4 strands of thread, I just need to go through each set of holes 3 times because that's 12 threads holding it at each spot there. Okay, doesn't take too long. Oops. Through the button, through the fabric, and 3 times. Okay, so there's 3 times in each set of holes. And on the back, I just have a little pick where I've made my stitches all in the same spot. Now that I've done all those 3 times through each set of holes, take the pin out, slide the button up to the top of that, and then wrap 3 times tight. 1, 2, 3 underneath there. So now that pushes the button to the top of the space. So we create that little space for the shirt to go under. If we'd been doing a coat or something really thick, we would have used like a pile of toothpicks or something to make a bigger space. All right, to finish it off, 1 little stitch sideways under the button. Pull your thread and then that loop forms, and this is how we finish off any hand sewing. Put your needle back through the loop. Make sure it is not going to get all twisted and tangly. Pull tight, and sometimes if I want to be very sure, I'll pull my thread. There's the loop. I'll put my needle through that loop. Pull it tight, but now my thumb is catching the thread, so I'm actually creating a second loop. Alrighty, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just back through the loop. As long as you do that a couple times, you're fine. And then I always put my needle through one more time before I cut my thread. That is it. Then you'll tie your knot again. We'll button this one up so that you can find your placement for the next button. Okay. You'll button your shirt there. Make sure your bottom is lined up. You can put a pin at the top and bottom so you hold it, and then go on to your next button. Okay.